Welcome back to Restoring Sean, and welcome to the very first tutorial I have ever filmed. In these Halloween 2024 special presentations, last week you decorated for Halloween with me here at the estate, and you probably got a glimpse of what we're going to be making today. With every room downstairs having a different look, the theme in the parlor is vintage Halloween. And along with that theme, the craft that we're going to be making today are vintage Halloween themed lanterns. If you're new to the channel, I post a new video every Wednesday morning where I'm typically showcasing the work I've done on one of my houses, but for the month of October, I'm embracing my inner Sally Owens and diving back in on the work that I had turned my nose up to, getting back into things as if I never stopped. Let's make some lanterns. Last year, when I started decorating my current house, I had a lot of ground to cover. The estate is nearly the size of the ranch and the manor combined, so that means a lot of square footage to decorate, and seeing as it was the first Halloween season in the house, I wasn't really sure how I was going to fill it up. People in the past have commented on how many Halloween decorations I have, and I have had a lot in the past. I've also downsized a lot in the past, and with my houses the size that they were, a little bit went a long way. So the amount that I had made it look like, oh wow, you've got a bunch of stuff. In reality, it's not too much. I mean, it's probably more than most people have. I think last year when the season ended, I had 5 totes. 1 full tote was because of a project from last year though, which I will show you at the very end of this video as a quick tutorial because I mentioned it last week. But when it's your first season decorating in a new house, it can be difficult to decide where to put everything. Specifically, how does it translate from previous houses in the way that you used it there, and how are you going to use it in a new house? What worked in your living room before perhaps doesn't work in your living room now. What you used to do on a mantle, maybe you don't have a mantle, so how do you translate that into something else, some sort of different display? Do you break the things apart, separating them into other rooms? Do you try and manipulate that display onto something else? It can be tricky. I know I mentioned this last week where I will decorate things and then I'll kind of come back to it a week or 2 later and adjust it because it's just not sitting right with me. When it comes to the estate, there are essentially 2 living rooms. There's the front living room, which is where the television exists, and that's where the stairs are in the front door. But then in the heart of the house is the parlor. In early October 2023, which early October is the best time to find the Halloween stuff on sale because everyone's getting ready for Christmas, I found this little guy when I was out and about for dirt cheap. It sparked my imagination on what I could be doing in the parlor here. This you can categorize as a vintage Halloween decoration, so probably like 1950s-ish. I love a vintage vibe, partly because of the nostalgia that it can bring, but I also love the vintage vibe because some of the decorations can be just creepy as shit, like the smile on this thing. So with this witch hat wearing kitty, I decided that the parlor was going to become a vintage Halloween vibe going forward. And in 2024, I was going to have to really amp that up and make it feel vintage in there. Years ago, I started seeing people on YouTube making these vintage lanterns, and usually they were based around pumpkins, but sometimes there would be cats and ghosts and bats. And I thought that for this year, I would do the same and take that opportunity to do some handmade projects because that's really kind of the best decor in a lot of ways, but I was going to make it my own. So today we are going to make a jack-o'-lantern, a cat, and a little ghost. To do this, you are going to need the following supplies: a container of Mod Podge, glass bowls in a couple of various sizes just for the variety. We're going to need some brown tissue paper, a good set of craft brushes, various craft paints in a variety of colors, so lots of oranges, reds, greens, some browns, but I guess that's red, blacks and whites. And the most important thing that we need, I can't make this one just appear. We need joint compound. You can get it a lot smaller than this, but this is what I have on hand, and there's no point in buying a cute little container when you got this. Other things that you're gonna probably need are some latex gloves because this is gonna get messy. We're gonna cover this surface with some trash bags or plastic liner. We're gonna need a lot of patience, a little bit of time. This is probably gonna be filmed over a couple days because I don't know how quick this is gonna dry. And access to a sink and soapy water because, like I said, it's gonna be messy. So let's get started. All right, we are starting with my trusty Pizza Hut box, and I'm using that cardboard to cut out ears for the cat lantern, and then a little curlicue for the ghost lantern, because I don't want to make the little hat that he was wearing in the reference picture. I am using hot glue to attach the ears and that curlicue, just to make sure that it's nice and sturdy on the glass bowls, and then I'm using painter's tape to cover the edges of that cardboard, and to make sure that it's extra super strong on the bowl. This is also going to help with preventing the plaster from drying out too quickly and from making the cardboard, kind of soggy and floppy. Then I'm going to get into the brown tissue paper. Now what you're going to do with this is cut out the shapes of the eyes, mouths, whatever that will go on the outside of the bowls, and you will attach that with Mod Podge. And the reason we're doing this is so that the light from within that casts out of those, we want a little bit of texture on the outside. We don't want it to be shiny glass. I'm applying the cat eyes now, and I should have done a mouth for the cat, but I didn't, but you'll see how I rectified that later. And then I'm doing the pumpkin eyes as well, and the mouth, which ended up being crooked, but sometimes, the art is in the mistakes. Now that those are done, I can start shredding the tissue paper in random shapes and filling the inside of the bowls completely. So you're gonna paint the Mod Podge, apply that tissue paper on the inside, and then Mod Podge a little bit over it just to make sure it's all flat against the glass walls. And the reason that we are doing that is so that the inside of the bowl is finished as well and protected just a little bit from, dropping something inside or what have you. Okay, so now that we've got the tissue done on the inside of these guys, we are ready to start plastering on the outside. The Mod Podge is pretty much dry, at least on the outside it's dry, and that's what matters. Probably doesn't matter at all. Now we can start getting messy with plaster. I'm gonna pick a new movie to watch on my laptop while this is going on. This stage took, well, let's see, how long did this take? This took an hour and a half. I don't know how long it should have taken me. I think I moved pretty quick. Regardless, let's start working on the plaster. There's really no easy way to apply the plaster, and in hindsight, something that may have made it easier was painting the entire outside of the lanterns with Mod Podge so that the plaster had something to adhere to other than the glass. So you'll also notice here that as I'm covering everything, I am forming around where the eyes and mouths are on these pieces, and I'm making little ridges on them. Something I don't show you in the video is that after this first layer of plaster had dried, I ended up going back over everything to form additional ridges on it so that the eye openings, the mouths, everything was much more pronounced. And then for the cat, it was so that I could add additional details like the nose and, eyebrows. Similarly with the pumpkin, I initially did these ridges that you see here. I didn't end up liking them once they were done, so I kind of covered them up. They showed through a little bit in the finished product, which was totally fine, but I just didn't think there was a good way of doing them. So right now, plastering all that over, and now it's dry. This is after the first coat, and I am using water to smooth down all of the edges. Okay, quick update. It's been 2 days since I started this. They've become the bane of my existence. This is no longer going to be a cat. It's going to be a devil now because I should have done the ears outward instead of upward, but it's okay to pivot. It's okay to pivot and change how things are going to go. So now I've already gone through and smoothed it down as much as I can with just water. But now I'm going to take some fine grit sandpaper and get a little bit more of the ridges off. It's okay if they have ridges because it's supposed to be kind of paper mache-y looking. I'm going to do that now, and then we are ready for painting. Using this sandpaper was a great idea to remove all of the ridges. And now that we've got the devil, I am putting a big mouth on it, and you'll see that I'm just scraping the plaster away from the glass since I hadn't put that tissue paper there originally. But everything smoothed out really nicely. Great texture still, which was gonna look great once the paint went on. So they are sanded and cleaned up as much as they're gonna be, at least. Cleaned up my workspace a little bit, so now it is time to paint. Just gonna start with base coats for everything because it is going to absorb into the plaster and dry really quick. So hopefully I can get 2 coats of that base paint on real zippy, and then we'll be able to move on from there. The paint that I'm using is just a basic latex craft paint that you can get from any hobby store or Target or even Walmart. And each piece was getting a single color. So there was pure white, burnt red, and for the pumpkin, the aptly named pumpkin orange. Each piece got 2 coats of paint, but it did soak in wonderfully and had great pigmentation. Once the paint had dried, I was able to go in and start putting the details on. So this takes a bit of a steady hand, but even with these mistakes, you can always paint over a mistake that you make, and ultimately, nothing is supposed to be perfect. These are supposed to be looking like handmade objects, probably stuff that a kid would make, and you know, I'm just a giant kid, but that's fine. The ghost gets a little bit of blush, and she's all set. For the devil, I ended up painting a lot of the mouth on. I figured because I didn't want the shiny big mouth there, if I did a lot of black paint on it, that was gonna mask a good amount of it. And by applying those teeth the way that I did, and then right now they look very square, but I ended up going in and angling all of them to give them a little bit of a point, and it turned out looking great. We got a little eyeliner going on for the devil there. Little detail work, painting those slit eyes. You can see why this wasn't gonna be a cat, right? I mean, that would have looked like a crazy cat. That would have looked like, I don't know, did Felix the cat have ears that went straight up like that? I don't know, probably aging myself. A little bit of a mustache, darken those, what I thought were ears into actual horns because I'm an idiot. And there you have it. Now, with the pumpkin, I was the most unsure of what I was doing, which is funny considering I was going to make a cat and it turned into the devil, but I digress. The pumpkin, I ended up painting a lot of its mouth black, which that's totally fine. I just didn't really love the reference photo that I had. So everything was off center, the mouth was crooked, I didn't know what I was doing with the nose. But in the end, the pumpkin ended up turning out to be my favorite piece. I just think it's, you know, a big grinning goofy idiot like me, and there's something fun with that. So eyelashes, chapstick, and we were ready to rock. All right, you guys, the work is essentially done. We've got our pumpkin, our little devil, and we've got our little ghosty here. I've got some final details to put on these little friends, but they are essentially good to go. So I still got to put a layer of Mod Podge on top of everything once I finish the detail work. What that's going to do is it's going to seal everything in nicely, so if you get it wet or anything, it'll not affect the paint from running or anything like that. Also, it'll act as a little bit of a protectant in case, whatever. If you hit this hard enough, it's going to chip the plaster a little bit, and we don't want that, obviously. I'm gonna take care of that. We will get it set up in the parlor where the nostalgic Halloween vibe is going on, and we'll see how the finished look is. And then the final step in the process is some color washing. So I'm gonna do 2 different shades of brown for the ghost and the devil. And that's just to give them a little bit of age so that they don't look so pristinely brand new. The devil one didn't show up too much, but that's fine. Here is the final coat of Mod Podge, so I'm sealing in all of that paint work just to make sure that nothing happens, it doesn't get screwed up by what the next step is. Because the next step is the black wash, and this is what's going to really give it its age. So it's just some black paint and water, swirl it around, and start painting it on. Once you've got it on, you are going to start dabbing it off with a paper towel, and that's gonna create the age on there that you wanna see. And then we are ready for the final look. Thank you so much for taking a look today and hopefully participating as we made vintage Halloween-themed lanterns. If you decide to make these for yourself, please make sure that you also share a picture to Instagram or directly to me at restoring_Sean. That way I can see your hard work, how you took this idea and ran with it, and then I can share it with everybody else. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe below. That way you are reminded every Wednesday morning when a new episode drops. Still to come this month. Next week, we will be doing the tutorial on how to build the Bayou Apothecary Potions display from my kitchen window that you saw in the Decorate for Halloween episode. The following week, I can finally share the story you've all been waiting for, Ghosts of the Manor. Until then, take care, and I will see you soon.
So you'd like to make a floating pumpkin? How enchanting! Well, to make a little magic, you're gonna need a few things first. Fishing line, a drill, a pen, your carving tool, a light for inside, and most importantly, a pumpkin. No, not that kind, you fool. Do you think fishing line is gonna hold that up? Ask a gay to follow a simple instructor. Oh, there you go. Yes, like that one. First, let's draw the face. Make it scary, but with a cutesy edge. Second, carve it out. If you have raw edges, don't worry. A little bit of sandpaper will fix that right up. Third, take that light, grip it firm, and shove it right... Oh, there you go. Use your drill and small drill bit to make a hole in the pumpkin stem. With the fishing line, string it through the opening, tie a knot, and there you have it. A magic floating pumpkin, and you're ready for Halloween. Now lather, rinse, and repeat.